Hello, this is my Module 5 reading journal, so let's get started. And reading the first question, it starts with the passage saying, having a Walter behind the counter instead of a clueless, replaceable me is something built and lost over time. It isn't intangible. It often evades eyes whose financial pupils have shrunk for long hours, staring at spreadsheets, and can no longer see qualities that do not have clear metrics attached to them. So it's asking, what is Lore commenting on in this passage, and what are some of these qualities that don't have clear metrics? Right off the top of my head, going off of what was on page 151, what is called human and capital management, or just-in-time scheduling comes to mind. So what that is basically during high production, mass production in car industry, it has been transferred to human capital management. So like scheduling and managing money spent with employees. I know this very personally because I work at Starbucks. So we have exactly this kind of policy. And so it is basically making it so efficient that you don't spend nearly as much money on the people you hire to do the job as much as you can. And that leaves like part-time, that leaves not being able to get a second job, usually because you don't have a set schedule to work off with for your second employer. It means a lot of things, and hiring and firing and all that. How we can see this in our course material, I can see it especially in the seafood and overfishing, where you just look for, the most efficient way to fish, and you get these giant nets, and they have co-fishing, or I believe it's bi-fishing, correct? There we go. And you destroy coral reefs, all these things that are not coral reefs, are just like the ground area where these fish lay and their habitats, all these things get caught up in the nets, per se, or literally. The next question, if I go to that, will be, like Lore, many of us use food purchasing decisions to influence the world, sustainability, environmental practices, etc. The refrain, vote with your fork, is the unofficial motto of the food movement. So how does this chapter complicate that idea, and what do you think is the solution? So with that, it definitely complicated my belief there, because I generally kind of had a vague belief in like a vote with your fork kind of mentality, but in reading this, it's like it furthered my suspicions of like what exactly are the certifications to get things or labels like organic or fair trade, is like, and how many people BS their way into that kind of label. And I can start with page 163, where they mentioned the medieval practice of simony, where the wealthy could pay money to be released from their sins. And he kind of compared this to the modern grocery store with these grocery store labels, organic, fair trade, etc., where those who can afford it are able to pardon their sins of being part of this capitalist mass consumerism, destruction of habitat kind of purchase. And I'm going to connect this with another thing from page 181. Third-party certification does not exist to solve a problem in the world, but to solve a problem inside of me. So that's kind of like modern day simony, if I'm saying that correctly. Let's see, going back to 164, just to like clarify like how this is, like when a voluntary inspection program investigated, fraud was found on the organic and fair trade labels to be at levels of over 40%. So fraud is large. And to wrap it all up, 182, page 182, I will quote this. If anything, this is a conspiracy of good intentions, but I will personally say, and a little bit more than that, money. Convincing ourselves in circles that we are doing just enough not to require any uncomfortable action, replacing terror of a gargantuan world with a feeling of control. And as for the last part of that question, what do you think is the solution? I think is education, but not fear-mongering. I would say education in terms of like, hey, this is the actual problem, here's what it looks like, and here's how we're mobilizing ready to do this, please join us. I think that is probably the most quick and effective way to start shifting tides, is we really push forward the narrative, what's actually going to help, what is actually going to solve the problems we actually do care about, instead of just numbing ourselves with these modern day simony things at the grocery store. So yeah, thank you for watching my TED Talk.